What's up with y'all young boys? Welcome back to another Hemi Boys Reacts YouTube video. And today we got a Four Eyes video. This guy has an insane Mustang, right? He has a Viper, I think a couple other cars here and there. But the video we're really reacting to today is making the 4.6 red again. Hopefully this video is fire. Hopefully it has a whole bunch of entertainment. This guy's videos are off the charts. His Mustang is off the charts, and hopefully this is a fire video. Let's get to it.
Way back in 2004 at the North American International Auto Show in Detroit, Michigan, Ford revealed its retro-inspired 5th-generation Mustang, codenamed the S197.
The S197 platform of Mustang is by far my favorite platform of Mustang. It's the car that got me into cars, if you guys get what I'm saying. When I first seen the S197, I was little. And I remember seeing that car and I was thinking, I want to own one. I need that car. I remember I was like, one day I will have this car. It was just a beauty to me. I used to see it driving around, stuff like that. Same thing like my Charger. When I seen the 6th gen Charger, I was like, this is so cool. This is crazy. It's a crazy car. When I seen Transformers, I seen the Mustang. I was like, oh my God. And then I was watching Fast 5. I seen the Charger and I had the same feeling. And then I seen this kid in middle school. His dad had a Charger. It was on wheels. It had some sound in it and stuff. The bass was going crazy. But when I seen those cars, I was amazed. I was amazed by it.
With its large circle headlights, 5-spoke wheels, and classic
muscle
car
lines,
this Mustang paid serious homage to the iconic Mustangs of the late 1960s. The GT
looks
version
just
came
like
with a 4.6-liter V8 that produced 300 horsepower, which helped make it.
The 4.6, I'm not gonna lie, is one of the worst engines that V8s that Ford has put out. Well, it's not the worst, but it's very lackluster. Very underpowered. It does not respond to mods very well. It's really it's not. I wouldn't say it was, that engine specifically wasn't really geared towards performance. You could do a lot of stuff to it, but you're gonna be spending a lot of money trying to get power out of it. To make 400 wheel horsepower, you're going to spend what, 7 to 10 grand? I say try to get that thing to 400 wheel horsepower, close to it. That's not good. That's not good at all. But then again, a lot of the manufacturers really were putting out engines like that. So it's not really an uncommon thing for cars of that time period to have engines that were lackluster.
Make it the quickest new car you could buy under $30,000 in 2005. But what really makes this car special is that it set the trend for the next generation of muscle cars, as Dodge and Chevy followed suit by reintroducing the Challenger in 2008 and the Camaro in 2010, both of which
those two cars are
inspired by the vehicular nostalgia of
especially
America's
the Camaro.
yesteryear. I first saw this Mustang way back in 2004 in Car and Driver magazine and instantly fell in love with it. I was only making like $8 an hour at the time, so I could only afford this car on Forza, where I spent hundreds of hours modifying and racing this car online. Many years later,
Forza Motorsports 3, 4, stuff like that.
I was able to afford one of
I remember doing
Ford,
that type of
Dodge,
stuff.
and Chevy were now all building cars that made well over
that
400
bullet is
horsepower,
amazing.
essentially making the 4.6 3-valve Mustang obsolete and often a point of ridicule. But in May of 2017,
I don't think it's obsolete,
I bought one
bro.
anyway with the goal of making it
4.6 might be lackluster,
and recently
but the
I
body
just
style is
completed
just
Stage
timeless.
3, which includes some major upgrades like forged internal,
Also, he's naturally aspirated right now.
T56 Magnum
I was thinking he was boosted
and some
already.
really proper tuning. So in this video, I'm going to break down everything that's been done to this underdog so far, reveal how much power it makes with its current setup.
The T56 is one of the best transmissions you can get.
Including a Dodge Viper,
they hold a lot of power
SS, and a 2021 Mustang GT with a 10-speed automatic transmission. Then finally, I'll talk about the big plans for it going forward in Stage 4. That's
what I want to see, right? I want to see a boosted, stroked out, cammed 4.6. That's what I want to see. This guy's going with the turbo setup, so it's going to sound amazing. The reason why I love turbo so much, and I will always tell people to go with turbos over a supercharger, centrifugal supercharger, stuff like that, is because there's so much room for power. And it's not driven by a belt. It's not parasitic, stuff like that. It's just It's not free horsepower because, of course, you need exhaust to spin it up, but it's almost free horsepower. I mean, you can make so much power with so much more power with a turbo than you can with a supercharger. Just think about it. Why are all these big racing teams using turbos over superchargers? Superchargers are low for the basically boost by RPM that it inherently does, but a turbo is going to give you way more room. They're cheaper. You can do them so cheap, and you could fabricate a turbo system just by yourself. You get a BorgWarner turbo with 2 of them, fabricate a whole system by yourself. You can make your headers, all your components, but you're locked to going with a company that completely shove a stick up your ass and overpay you for a supercharger or a centrifugal setup. It's crazy.
First upgrades this Mustang received was a cold air intake, a pipe bomb axle back, and a Bama tune.
That thing sounds
good. These basic
good.
bro mods enabled the Mustang to put down 292 wheel horsepower and
292 wheel horsepower.
Which was a pretty respectable
I think that's basically
over stock. In stage 2, the Mustang got a full exhaust system from Cooks that included long tube headers, high flow cats, and an X pipe.
That thing sounds
I also installed a
man.
new intake manifold with shorter runners from
All right, you're basically going FBO.
larger throttle
FBO
body,
is the second
underdrive
stage.
pulley, upgraded coils, and a lighter one-piece aluminum drive shaft. These mods, in combination with a dyno tune, enabled the Mustang to put
that drive shaft right there, having a lighter drive shaft like aluminum or carbon fiber, that's basically going to help him decrease the rotational mass so that he could put more power down to the wheels from the crankshaft.
Down 327 wheel horsepower.
Also, it's going to help you make more power because it's going to be stronger.
About a 12% increase over stage 1.
All right.
Stage
FBO
3 began
is
with some cosmetic
327
upgrades,
horsepower, a
including
little
a
bit more
California
torque.
special bumper, along with a modified GT500
That bumper
front
is
splitter
fire.
and some side splitters to match. I also customized some aftermarket headlights, installed a ducktail spoiler, and had the deck lid shaved for that super clean look. I think these visual mods turned out pretty well. Things got more serious when I installed a set of Detroit Rocker camshafts. These gave the car a pretty dope
Stage 3,
look.
yep. The wet cam. Oh my god. That right there is a perfect example of why I say the 4.6 is the best sounding engine out of Ford's lineup, close to the 302.
And after another dyno tune, bumped the power up to 363 wheel horsepower,
Right, he went
which was about
cammed.
100 horsepower over stock and on par.
So really over stock, yeah, it's about 100 horsepower, but that right there, that's probably already $7,000 right there, just in parts that he's buying for 100 horsepower. It's not. I don't know.
With its 5.0 successor. Now this is where I should have closed the chapter on stage 3 and just made this video, but instead I took on the foolish goal of trying to squeeze 400 wheel horsepower out of the Mustang before boosting it, and this is where things started to get a little crazy.
But I love how
I
he's
knew that
building
the engine
this
was eventually going to have to be
engine
rebuilt
up
with stronger
instead of
parts,
putting like
since these old
a Coyote in
engines
it.
can't handle much over 500 horsepower. So in preparation for my turbo kit,
I love how he's building this
Ford
4.6. This is the type of stuff I like to see.
Included a 3.8.
When I see people building 5.7s, 4.6s, stuff like that, it really you have more of a respect for the builder for actually taking his time, effort to learn about that engine and learn what really makes this stuff work. If you guys know what I'm saying, it's very different when you see somebody build a car like this with the 4.6.
8-inch stroker crankshaft, Manley H-beams, and dished aluminum pistons. These internals can handle over 1,000 horsepower and would increase the Mustang's displacement to 4.9 liters. I also purchased this dazzling pair of ported cylinder heads from Livernois that flow about 25% better than the stock heads and came with stainless steel valves and stiffer springs good for 7,800 RPM. I also picked up a pair of the most aggressive off-the-shelf cams available for 3-valve Mustangs, Comp Cams 127-600s. And finally I ordered a...
What is that? What does that say? Let me look at the specs right quick. Where's the specs at? Where's the specs? Valve timing, average duration, intake. Oh.
was 127
Fairly
600.
good camera.
And finally, I ordered a complete return-style fuel system from On3 Performance and 1000cc injectors from Beachworks. Street to Sand in Reno, Nevada did the rebuild for me, and after 7 weeks and $9,000, I had my car back.
Got the head studs. Alright. You guys about to make some power, man. Oh my god, you guys hear that low? Jesus
A few hundred
Christ.
miles after the rebuild, the Mustang was able to put down 387 wheel horsepower and 353 pound-footed torque.
That's really,
I was hoping the
tell you the
Mustang
truth,
would
that's
break
not
the
that
400
bad,
level,
man.
but I've read that sometimes it takes a while for freshly built engines to reach their potential.
Definitely after you break it in, you get through that braking period, you're going to be hitting 400 wheel horsepower.
So I set up a friendly race with a full bolt-on LS3 Camaro that made almost 450 wheel horsepower at the time. So while not exactly a fair fight, I was curious to see what the Mustang...
I say after you get close to 500 miles on that setup, at 250, 500, you should be able to really make more power. Do a little bit more tune revision, stuff like that, then you're definitely going to be pushing over 400 wheel horsepower.
In first and second gear, once I shifted into third, I didn't stand a chance. Not only was the gearing on my Mustang way too long, but I was also having a really hard time getting the 5-speed manual transmission to go into second gear. I knew my transmission was on its way out. So I ordered the ultimate 6-speed manual transmission to replace it, a Tremec T56 Magnum XL. These transmissions can handle over 1,000 horsepower and 700 pound-footed torque, and were used in high-power muscle cars like the Shelby GT500.
Those T56s, man, those things
I paired
are
the Magnum with the twin-disc clutch from McLeod and shorter 410 axle gears to improve acceleration. I installed all the parts myself to save money and made a pretty detailed video on the conversion process for fellow Mustang owners.
That's like the sweet spot for a dig monster.
The new drivetrain resulted in crisp, predictable.
Once you go past like 14 and 411 gears, there's this thing called, you guys probably heard of this, there's a point of diminishing returns. Once you start to want to do 453s or like 5 whatevers, what's the point? There is a thing, you're just gonna, your room for improvement is so small once you get up there that it really makes no sense.
Shifts and made
that's why you don't see a lot of
RPM,
gears,
no big deal.
like rear end gears at that ratio, because it really doesn't make sense. This shifting is amazing.
I returned to Street to Sand to have the Mustang's tune recalibrated for the new transmission and to find out if the new lighter flywheel and clutch assembly freed up any horsepower. I asked Dustin to push the Mustang to its limit by targeting an air-fuel ratio of 12.8 and to just keep adding timing until it stops making power. After Dustin worked his magic, the Mustang put down an impressive 408 wheel horsepower and 363 pound-footed torque.
That's not bad at all. On a naturally aspirated 3-valve, that's
power on 91 octane. So big props to Dustin at Street to Sand for squeezing this kind of power out of a low compression NA3.
I say you put a lighter wheel and tire setup on there, you will be making at least 412 to 415.
Now we're going to race a few muscle cars that would normally leave my Mustang in the dust to see if I have in fact made this Mustang great again. Every race will...
Like the Coyote from stock should be making what? To the wheel, it should be making around 360 to 380 wheel horsepower. I'm pretty sure.
Will feature a car that is more powerful and faster than the one before it. And yes, while my Mustang is modified, all the cars that we'll be racing still have higher compression and displacement. Our first race is against a lightly modded 2001 Chevy Corvette
motor
with a 6-speed manual transmission.
Definitely boost ready.
These 5th-gen Corvettes are powered by a 5.7-liter V8 LS1 that generates 350 horsepower and 375
What do you guys think is better, the 5.7 Hemi or the 5.7 LS?
Cold air intake and exhaust, so
I go with the Hemi, you guys already know.
This is also the lightest car in racing today,
stout,
and according to Car and Driver, it's more than capable of a low 13-second quarter mile. Next up is the successor to my Mustang, a 2014 Mustang GT with a 1st-gen Coyote engine. This 5-liter...
Anybody who bought a 2010 Mustang GT, you must have shot yourself in the foot when you realized the next year was going to have the 5.0. I'm just saying. That's
Dual
horrible.
overhead cam V8 produces 420 horsepower and 390 pound-foot of torque at the crank. It's equipped with a 6-speed manual and is good for a 13.1 second quarter mile.
That thing is quick, man.
Our next race is against my best friend's 2015
man, Four Eyes,
SS
you're
1
different, man. You're
It's powered
different.
by an LS3,
You're
which
different.
is a 6.2-liter pushrod V8 that produces 426 horsepower and 420
The LS3 is
pound-foot of
just a
torque at the
sweet
crank.
spot.
These 5th-gen
It's
1LEs were
sweet
only
spot.
available with a manual
The
transmission,
LS7
and
is
this
next
the
best
only
thing.
car we'll be racing today with shorter gearing than my
It just
Mustang.
has its own issues. Valve drop and stuff.
Next up is a 2019 Mustang Bullitt, which is a special Mustang that pays tribute to the classic Mustang GT Fastback that Steve McQueen drove in the 1968.
You guys ever watch that movie?
It's powered by a 3rd-generation Coyote engine that gets the upgraded intake manifold, throttle body, and airbox from the Shelby GT350. This allows the Bullitt to generate an impressive 480 horsepower and 420 pound-foot of torque at the crank. It's only
For how much those things were from MSRP? 480 horsepower. You know, it is a Bullitt. You know, it pays respect to the old movie stuff like that, the old car. But I don't think for that money that is really worth it, even though it has GT500 parts on it, the intake, stuff like that. I really don't think it's worth the money. I think they were upwards of 60, 70 grand when they came out.
only available with a 6-speed manual transmission, and according to Car and Driver, the Bullitt can do the quarter mile in 12.6 seconds.
What? 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 Hey man. Four Eyes. When I'm building my 4.6, whenever I get it, I'm coming to you. I want to know everything you did to this. That tune is glorious. Your gear ratio, that car looks like it's being really honed in. This thing is beautiful.
The most powerful car we'll be racing
like this
today
video
is
a lot.
also the oldest. This is my 2000 Dodge Viper GTS, and it's powered by a tuned
Viper,
8-liter V10 that makes somewhere around 500 horsepower and over 500
That pushrod V10 is
I don't know what it
amazing.
does the quarter in, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did it in under 12 seconds.
That is a super light car. The Viper is super light. But all that power down low and at the top end too, that thing is very light. Got some meat on them
The
tires.
Mustang puts up a pretty decent fight, but with the aerodynamics of a refrigerator and the Viper's big boy torque, it never really had a chance.
The aerodynamics are not that bad, man. The refrigerator.
Now, all the cars we've raced so far have been manual, which
shoebox.
means each car's performance has been
A
pretty
sh-
dependent on when
aerodynamics
and
of a
how quickly
shoebox.
the driver shifted gears. So I know there's one more car we need to race, a 6th-gen Mustang GT with a 10-speed automatic transmission. This is
Aw,
the
man.
fastest new Mustang you can
To
buy
everybody
today,
on the
outside of
internet,
the
this is King Daddy.
GT500 and the soon-to-go-on-sale S650. But first, I returned
Honestly,
to
I want
to
to do
quick
a
checkup
10
just to
speed
make
build
sure
too.
everything was good.
Probably not a 10
Only to
speed and
find
one
out
of
it
the
wasn't.
550 though.
The Mustang was down about
I'd
60
rather
wheel
just
horsepower from its peak.
try to
and
make the
dyno
10
chart
speed
had
to
this
like a
unusual
4.6 or
waviness to it.
something.
And weirdly, most of the diagnostic data looked fine. Even the compression test result.
You guys know there's adapter plates and stuff to where you could put a DCT transmission onto basically any engine that's out there. There's companies out there that specifically make BMW DCT transmission to, let's say, LS3 adapter plates. And all you need is an ECU to control like one of the max ECUs. You could get one of those and completely control your DCT while having it made it to a LS. You can do the Vortec engines, all that. It's crazy and it's insane. I went down a rabbit hole looking at it. I'm gonna show you guys on the main channel one day. But that stuff, the stuff that people figure out how to do with these cars are insane. I never even thought of putting DCT onto an LS. Imagine having a Silverado 1500, like a 03 or something like that, and then having a DCT transmission in it. You're paddle shifting a DCT in a truck with like a Corvette exhaust. That's just something different. I wanna made a DCT to the 302.
Results look good. With no obvious clues from the data logs and lack of engine codes, I did a basic tune-up that consisted of new spark plugs and coil packs, an air filter, and an oil change. When I returned to the dyno, the Mustang did make a little more power, but it was still down about 10% from its peak. So I cut open the old oil filter to look for engine damage, and I did find a few bits of metal. I wasn't sure if this was enough to be a concern, but after some Googling, I did start to panic a little. I hoisted the engine up a few inches so I could drop the oil pan and check out the rod bearings. And while they did have more wear than I expected, it wasn't anything catastrophic. I went ahead and replaced the rod bearings, then I removed the front cover so I could inspect the timing components. And that's where I found something interesting. The chain tensioner should be easily compressible like the one you see here, but the right-hand tensioner was completely stuck open. Even with all my strength, I could barely compress it. My thought was maybe this failed tensioner was throwing off timing on the right bank just enough to lose power, but not enough to throw any codes. So I replaced all the timing chain components, along with new VCT solenoids, camshaft and crankshaft position sensors, and O2 sensors. And since I had to remove the transmission to drop the oil pan, I also installed a new clutch from Center Force with a single organic disc that's good for almost 700 pound-foot of torque. This clutch uses a centrifugal weight on the pressure plate to apply extra clamping force at high RPMs, but otherwise provides the smooth engagement of a stock clutch under normal driving. And while the RXT twin disc I had before was great for lightning quick power shifts, it's less than ideal for daily driving as you have to rev up the engine and carefully modulate the clutch pedal every time you take off from a stop. And finally, I also upgraded the fuel pumps because on long drives I did notice that my fuel pressure would start to drop off. After triple checking that I installed the timing components correctly, I got to work reinstalling the front cover and all of its pulleys, the valve cover.
That's the thing with performance parts. A lot of them
rails, throttle body,
really hurt
intake. Then it was
the daily
finally time to
drivability
fire
of
the
the car.
Mustang up and take it for a test drive. But
Like
unfortunately,
fat
I could
cams,
tell from the sound of the
for daily
exhaust
driving
that
is
something was
horrible.
still off.
Oh, I can hear it. I hear
I
what
took
you're
the
talking
Stang
about.
back to street to stand anyway, hoping it was just a tuning issue. And of course it wasn't. The engine was running so lean, Dustin didn't even feel comfortable doing a dyno pull. But at least there was a clear problem this time. The Mustang's computer was trying to add significantly more fuel to the engine's left bank. And since I had just replaced the plugs and coils, I had a strong hunch it was an injector. So I took my injectors to a shop called Blazing Wrenches in Sparks, Nevada to have them flow tested and cleaned. They provided a before and after report which clearly showed I had a clogged injector. I reinstalled the freshly cleaned injectors and could immediately tell the car was running way better. Before heading back to Street to Sand for the 17th time, I topped off the Stang with some premium racing oil from Motul to better protect the bearings and valve train going forward. This oil is specifically designed to provide extra protection under hard driving. And considering how I drive, that's pretty much most of the time. Badass manufacturers like Roof and Gunther Works exclusively use Motul to protect their high-revving engines, so I reckon it's good enough for my 7,000 RPM 3-valve. I spent half the day driving around monitoring the Mustang's diagnostics and performance in real-world conditions. Then Dustin dialed in the tune on the dyno, and after a bunch of test runs, the Mustang was ultimately able to put down 410 wheel horsepower and 364 pound-foot of torque.
Hey man, off of stock,
but now that the Mustang is finally running great again,
that's more than 150 horsepower. All right, let's see this. Let's watch this race then I'm in this video right after this.
This 2021 Mustang GT is powered by a third-gen Coyote engine that's rated for 460 horsepower and 420 pound-foot of torque at the crank. But what really makes this car special is that it has a 10-speed automatic transmission that enables it to do the quarter mile in just 12.1 seconds. That's a half second faster than its manual counterpart and a tenth quicker than the Shelby GT350, making it the second fastest Mustang on the market as of late 2022. On a dyno, these Mustangs usually make around 415 wheel horsepower, which means that even with all the mods my 4.6 Mustang has, a stock third-gen Coyote still puts a little more power to the ground. And admittedly, after making this chart, I got so worried about losing that the night before the race, I crudely constructed this ram air headlight from some plumbing material I found at Home Depot. I had learned from all those tuning sessions that my Mustang was super sensitive to intake air temps, so keeping my IATs down could actually make a difference in this race. We're going to start the first race at 25 miles per hour and go to about 100.
I was thinking about doing that with my truck.
This will take my Mustang from the middle of first gear to the top of fourth.
Man, that 4.6 is fast, man.
My Mustang initially rockets forward a few car lengths and is able to maintain that gap for the duration of the race.
That thing is fast, man. That thing is fast.
No doubt this result surprised
God.
me, so for the second race, we're going to increase our starting speed to 50 miles per hour, which will start me in second gear.
Yeah, that's what a Mustang drives at. The Coyote. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, it thrives at higher RPM. If you go lower in gear, you're definitely gonna beat it, but you're lower in RPM.
This race was much more evenly matched, and while I'm doing my best to shift as quickly as possible, the 10-speed Mustang is able to put about a half car length on me around 130 miles per hour. So what?
Alright guys, that was a fire video right there. I love the 4.6. As you guys now know, I want to do a build of my own. Hopefully within the next couple years I actually do a fire S197 Mustang build. But until then, you guys keep watching these videos. Remember to check out the main channel, right? This channel is already just getting started. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you beautiful people later. Bye.